Well, we came here to do the remainder of our squad audit ahead of next season, but we may have some fun contract news to talk to you about as well. Welcome to Blue Monday, an Ipswich Town podcast. Well, hot on the heels of our defender chat on Sunday night, Joe, Dara O'Shea has signed a new contract.
Fantastic news, isn't it? Great. Just what we wanted to see here coming in. And you look at that defence now, that central defensive pairing of Dara O'Shea and Jacob Greaves, and this is what we always used to moan about, isn't it? These teams with a £27 million central defensive pairing playing in the Championship while we're pulling together freebies and signings from Accrington Stanley. So, no, fantastic news. And I think he'll be our next captain as well, doesn't he?
What do you think the pitch was from Mark Ashton?
You've just had a big chop in your wages because of the relegation. Here, have a bit more, give us an extra year and lose any release clause on it.
So what is the contract length now?
He was contracted until 2029 and now it's till 2030. So we just tagged an extra year on the end. So it's a 5-year deal effectively from now. But that's as long as you can sign unless you're Chelsea, 5 years.
And do you think there's a massive release clause gone in there as well?
I don't know, because I'd imagine there was a release clause in there for this summer. So I think that's
a bigger one.
Yeah. But I think the main thing it means is that he's going to be with Ipswich Town until next summer, whatever happens.
Yeah, agreed.
He's not leaving now and he's not going to leave in January. It's one where he is going to be here till next summer. And if we don't go up and he plays as well as he did last year and we get a bigger fee for him, then I guess that's the sort of thing that happens. But as it is, he's going to be our defensive leader through the 25-26 season.
Well, that felt like the deal they did with Kieran McKenna last summer, didn't it? It was, right, you're going to get a pay rise and you're definitely going to be here for another year minimum, yeah?
Yeah, that's all you can really do with these players. Ultimately, we know contracts are there. They're not there to be seen out contracts these days. They're there to protect the clubs for fees. That's where we are on this. And that's why he's got an extra year now. It just makes it harder for him to leave effectively. So that's what we've done. And I think it's fully well deserved. I think he was our best defender last year, probably our most consistent player, most Premier League level consistent player there. But I don't know. It's just really, really good to see that there's some good news coming out of the club after sort of Cameron Burgess left last week and nothing moving in the transfer market yet. So I'm sure things will start to hot up now.
Yeah. So the other side of this is, and I don't want to rain on anyone's parade at all, Joe, but we kind of mentioned our likely order of people who may be sold, et cetera, et cetera. I said to you before we came on, this really puts Omari Hutchinson right at the top of the most likely to leave list, even more than he was yesterday, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I think he was always the most likely because I think he is probably the best player we have in that regard. The one who's probably got the highest ceiling, the one who's proven it. Like I guess you could make an argument that maybe Jaden Philogene is in that sort of similar camp, but he's coming off the back of a stop-start season with regards to going to Villa, it not working out here, coming to Ipswich, making the move, getting injured, so missing the under-21s tournament, which he would have been in, and doing well there. So maybe on that side of it there, but Omari Hudson has been linked with 6 teams today in the Daily Mail. Brentford, Fulham, Borussia Dortmund, Red Bull Leipzig,
Dortmund,
Everton and West Ham. But his release fee is apparently £35 million, which is €41 million. So I had a look at these clubs here. Brentford's record transfer so far is €33 million, Igor Thiago.
But
Nathan Collins, 27.
They're about to have a load of money coming in for Brian and Burma, aren't they?
But you are talking almost €15 million more than their transfer record. Fulham's transfer record is €31 million. Emil Smith-Rowe, so 10 million on top of that. Borussia Dortmund's is 35 million. Ousmane Dembele, you may have seen him ripping out for PSG at the moment. And so you're a lot more than that. Red Bull Leipzig
was Haaland cheaper than that?
Yeah, Haaland was a fair bit cheaper than that because I think it was
he?
all sort
He
of
was
part
so
of the
young,
deal
was
where
he?
he could move on as well. Joe Bellingham was 30 million. Jude Bellingham was 30 million. So you're talking 10 million euros more than those two transfers. Leipzig have spent 50 million on Xavi Simons, so it wouldn't be a record for them. 40 million on Lois Openda. Everton, their record sign is 50 million euros, Gylfi Sigurdsson. But after that, it's Onana for 39, Richarlison for 39. So he'd be their second highest signing of all time. And then West Ham are a team that have spent more than that figure on four players: Haller, Kilman, Kudus, and Paqueta, and Todibo was in that range. So, like I say, other than RB Leipzig, West Ham, that 40 million or 41 million euro release clause is a massive transfer for all these clubs. So, I guess it's do they see him as an instant first teamer, because that's what he's probably going to need to be at that price.
Yeah, amen. Oh, thank you. Just flashed up on my screen. David Bergine, 20 euros on a super sticker. Should we say thank you to David and transfer that straight to Omari Hutchinson as a new contract for him?
Yeah, as it's in euros, and David's from Ireland. Maybe that's just he's delighted that Dara O'Shea has signed again. One of his countrymen and representatives in the green.
Thank you so much, David. Very, very kind. We're going to talk about Brian Clug in a second. Just a quick update on the Spotify issue here. There you go. Cunningham's brought up Spotify there. It has been resolved. So, we were begging and pleading for get our 5-star reviews back. They are back now, Joe. So no big deal. It's all sorted. But what's happening with Brian Clug?
He has left the club after a sort of near 50-year association. He left previously when Roy Keane was manager. I think that was quite controversial at the time, but basically Jim McGilton had made him his assistant manager at the time. And then, as Jim McGilton did, fell out with everybody and brought somebody else in. And then Brian Clug.
Check out our interview with Jim McGilton where he can explain in his own words. Carry on, Joe.
Yeah, so I think he ended up, we had an under-18s manager at the time. We had a reserves manager at the time. So he ended up as almost like a nothing, like with no real role. So he left at that point and then he brought back. And I think it was seen as a sort of almost like a big thing to bring him back into the club, because he's someone who's worked with the young players all the way back from your sort of Richard Wrights, Kieran Dyers, James Scowcroft, that fantastic players, Titus Bramble, to then the next crop, the FA Youth Cup winning crop, and then the sort of Darren Bent, Darren Ambrose. No, they were slightly before Darren Bent, Darren Ambrose, Matt Richards, Ian Westlake, Matt Bloomfield, all these guys with that one, and Liam Manning and Chris Hogg in that one. So that might give some indication as to where he's going next. And then we had another sort of good year group, which is like Andre Dezelle, Flynn Downs, Luke Wolfenden, sort of Tristan Nydam, Nick Hayes, all guys who are still in the games one way or another doing well. But I think his job, he's almost sort of not really got a fixed job so much now. He's not the head of the academy anymore, and he hasn't been for a long time. He's not the under-21s manager or the under-18s manager. I think he's there as almost like a mentor, a coaching mentor. And I think with the sort of, since we've had the takeover of like Bristol, the sort of guys coming in from Bristol City, Mark Ashton, Gary Probert, I do think there's an element of the sort of Ipswich crop of coaches have been sidelined a little bit in that. So if you're thinking of Kieran Dyer, for one, who ended up sort of leaving the club around that time. John McGreal is here, but he was brought in by Mark Ashton with Rennie Gilmartin. But then you've got sort of like
Alan Lee.
No, here, Alan Lee, Scott Mitchell, Matt Bloomfield was coaching the academy, David Wright, James Krause, a lot of people that had that long stand, Adam Ate, and a lot of people had that long standing Ipswich connection, Chris Hogg, Gerard Nash, all these guys there. And they've just sort of slowly, sort of one by one left the club. So I don't feel that he hasn't really got anyone here who is probably sees him for what he has been and a fantastic sort of coach, developer, player developer in his time. So it's just a shame that I think rather than retiring, I think it sounds like he's going to be moving up the road to Norwich to.
Well, he's going to do a similar sort of gig there.
Yeah, similar mentoring role there. He obviously was close to Liam Manning and Chris Hogg and James Krause, who are the management team up there. I think Dean Rastrick took him to Tottenham and is now sort of quite heavily involved up at Norwich. His son was in Ipswich Academy, but I think they had a good relationship, and I think he's the one that's driving for him to go up there. But yes, it's just a real shame that such a long association with the club, if it ends like that. But if it does, I'm sure there's reasons for it, and maybe we'll find out in due course.
We may, and we wish him very well. Incredible servant to the club indeed. Right. Are you ready, Joe, to dive back in to our... Hopefully this will prompt someone we're talking about signing a new contract in this area of the kind of squad that we're going to be looking at. So get your views in, guys, in the comments. We got some brilliant takes last time. But I think we're all going to be in agreement when we're talking about central midfield, Joe. We need some. So tell us what we've got and then tell us what you think we should do.
Well, the answer to what we've got is not a lot. We've got Sam Morsey, who was a regular last year, started 31 Premier League games, now 150 games for Ipswich. He started in the league. And then Jack Taylor, who was a regular in the matchday squad, made 32 appearances for us, but only 4 of them were starts. And over his 2 seasons has made 65 appearances, but only 11 of them have been starts.
Wow.
And then Cameron Humphreys, who enjoyed a brilliant loan spell at Wickham, is back. He obviously did play for us at all in the Premier League last year, but all 3 of these players are out of contract next summer. Cameron Humphreys has got an option. So, yeah, we are talking about a major overhaul in the midfield now. I wouldn't like to say it's make or break for the season, but this is the area we need to target. We've had a lot of names. It's hard to know whether these names are linked sort of from like Twitter accounts or spuriously or actual real links from somewhere.
Spurious is fine, mate. It's June.
But like I said, names we've had so far, like sort of Hayden Hackney, Tyler Morton, Sean Longstaff, Jens Kajust, really, really high caliber players for this level. Players who you probably would expect, maybe not Tyler Morton so much, but to be getting Premier League interest, top level interest from those clubs, maybe even clubs who are competing in Europe on the continent. So that is the level we're aiming at. But it's very important that we get someone in there and get a couple of people in soon. Flynn Downs, another one who we were.
Well, Joe, we'll get on to those. Talk to me about the guys that are actually here. Here first off.
Well, Sam Morsey, I guess there's not much needs to be said about him. I thought he had a good season last year. I know there were times when we were overrunning midfield, but I didn't really feel like Sam Morsey was a problem particularly often in there. And he's 33. I think he turns 34 in September, October time. So there's always a worry when players get to this age that they do just fall back athletically and physically. But to be blunt with Morsey, I don't really expect that. I think he's going to be good to go. And if he was to start every game next season, I don't think...
Well, his game's not based on athleticism, is it?
No, it would be because he's earned it on merit. And anyone, like I say, I think we'll go out and sign 2 players here for probably 8-figure fees. And Sam Morsey isn't just going to hand over his place to them. Oh, sorry, there's another comment. Josh Brownhill was one we have actually been linked with from Alan Nixon in the Sun, linked us with Josh Brownhill. So, yeah, so high caliber. But then you've got Jack Taylor, and I think a few people are writing this in the comments as well. What does he really fit into our team? He's sort of more of an 8 rather than a 6 in sort of modern parlance for midfielders, where we've sort of elected to play with 2 sort of...
I think he could do the 10, but there are better players in the squad to do that, aren't there?
Yeah, and there are. So he's someone, and even when he signed, it looked like he sort of fitted, sort of stuck between 2 stools, really. And we felt that when he signed, and it has proved to be the case over the last 2 seasons. And you see that by the limited amount of starts he has. And I'd imagine if you're Jack Taylor, you might even be wanting to get out of here and try and get somewhere where you can start week in, week out, every weekend, because he's good enough to, and he's in the Island squad, and he's playing regularly for them now. But
any chance the system changes slightly? I mean, you mentioned Brownhill. If you look at graphics on a flashy app, you'll see a 4-2-3-1. But I watched Burnley a lot last season. They played a 4-3-3. They played a 3-man midfield. So is there any chance McKenna might look at that? And that would obviously open up. That'd be a bit more helpful for Jack Taylor, wouldn't it? A 3-man midfield.
Yeah, but I guess the problem is that when you see the following slides, the sort of options we've got in that front 3.
Fair comment.
In the 3 behind the striker, that where do you go with all those if you're playing as a 4-3-3?
Fair point.
It's incredibly difficult to fit all this quality into the team. But I think we go back to someone who's more defensively minded. And I think Cam Humphreys, he could be a good fit for this role. He's played left back for us a few times under Kieran McKenna. He's got that great engine. He's very good at getting up and down the pitch. He's got great sort of game smarts with regards to positioning where he needs to be. I know we played a lot as a 10 at Wickham last year, but is he somebody that maybe could play that Massimo Luongo role on that left-hand side where you fill in when you need to and make a little bit from the back end of the pitch? I wouldn't put it past him, but I don't think you'll be seeing him there starting regularly.
Yeah, I was going to say, is he ahead of Taylor then in respects of you're first off the bench in a 3-game week?
Probably not, but it might be that over the course of the season he ends up starting more games in that.
You don't think he's going to be loaned out again?
No. I think he'll be here for the season. I think Kieran McKenna's a big fan of him, and I think he'll want to bring him into the squad. But it's just when you look, we've got 3 there: Morsey, Taylor, and Humphreys. And I think most supporters would say we need to sign at least 2. You've got to sign at least 2 in there. But we've lost 3. We've lost Luongo, we've lost Jens Kajus, and we've lost Calvin Phillips. So 3 have gone. Can they be replaced with 2 plus Humphreys? Or I think the only way that works is if the 2 are real high caliber players at this level, and I'd imagine that's what we're going for.
Yeah. Go on, let's do it then. Talk to me about name names, because we've spoken about this as the area, and even if Omari Hutchinson was, say, to be sold, there's still plenty in that area, and you can start the season with a fairly densely populated sort of roster in those positions. But we see a £10 million signing in central midfield. Do you think?
I think there has to be, really. I guess if you sign Josh Brown here, that's a free transfer, so that £10 million probably finds its way into his wage packet somehow.
His agent, yeah.
Yeah. But Flynn Downs is a player that we were linked with last summer, really pushed for him. And I think it was only his loyalty to Russell Martin, who'd been fantastic with him at both Swansea and Southampton, that saw him go there when Russell Martin was out the door in sort of November, December time.
Well done, Joe. Finally, someone other than me on this podcast said something nice about good old Russ Martin, who's now at Rangers, by the way. You can still find him.
Yeah, and so when Russell Martin left Southampton, you're talking Ivan Juric came in, Simon Russell. I don't think he really wants to be there under those managers. No. They've got Will Still in now. I don't know how he fits in with that, but I think if he could engineer himself a move back to Ipswich for sort of family reasons, as well as coming to play in a fantastic team, fantastic club under a fantastic manager, I think he would be doing that. So,
how much would he cost, Joe?
Well, I think Southampton played sort of like 16 for him last year, didn't they? 15, 16. So
West Ham was more than that, though, wasn't it?
I think West Ham was 8 or 9, and then
was it? Okay,
they flipped him for quite a good profit. But I imagine they're going to want to get the majority of that back. But are they going to get it back? Maybe not. I don't know. But I guess somewhere like 12 million quid, somewhere in that region. And I think if you can
do it,
26.
Perfect.
Yeah, and it's just I think you don't want to be going too young in these roles. You want to be looking at people coming into their prime, and unless you do, like say, you do a Downs, maybe a Tyler Morton as well, who's someone's going to.
That's going to be a low, though, isn't it?
I don't know. He was at Liverpool last year, and he only started 2 games, I think, across the whole season in the League Cup. So he's had a total wasted season. So it's what they do from there.
I saw Nat Phillips went to West Brom. I was like, oh, what is he? 23, 20? He's 28. These Liverpool guys, they get that second big contract, and they're older than you think.
Yeah, and Hayden Hackney, but Porto were in right for him right until the very end of the Club World Cup window. So they wanted to take him to that, and they bid 15 million euros right at the end of the window, and that was turned down. So you'd think he's one that's maybe out of our range. Are we going to be dropping? You're probably talking like 16 million quid, something like that for him. And is he surely going to be wanting to go to the Premier League rather than staying in the Championship? But who knows? But yeah, this is where the bulk of our spending.
What about Sheaf? That's normally a link, isn't it?
Yeah, he's not. I don't know. He seems to have went backwards last year with Coventry.
It's a big injury, to be fair.
Yeah, I just don't think that he's one that's going to. I don't know. He doesn't look like one who's going to step up to the Premier League anymore for me.
No. Okay. Can you see a central midfielder coming in as a priority before this big sale we think is going to go out the door at the start of July?
I think we'll just be working on everything all the time, and it is a big priority to get someone in. I just wonder whether this 30th of June is something that we want to push things the other side of the window for PSR reasons. Do we want all our stuff to go into next year now? Don't really know. I think the players are back on Monday, which is the 30th of June, isn't it? So
God.
They're not really missing anything, and a lot of players will be still away on international duty. Like Omari Hutchinson has got a game tomorrow. He's not going to be back in Ipswich for the next. No. He's going to finish that tournament and need a couple of weeks at least after that. So we're not going to see him for a few weeks. And Dara O'Shea's had international football. Maybe he has a bit longer.
Couple of names coming up in the comments. I mentioned Jason Knight. That was happening a lot at the end. And someone talked about, is it Tom Deli Bashiru or is it the other one? I can't remember. The one who's is he Watford?
Yeah.
Yeah. Any thoughts on either of those before we move on?
Yeah, they're both good players, aren't they? Both good players at this level, but it's just who are we going to go for? Are we going to be looking at European markets? I tried to do some European scouting today and came across a name, and then he was linked with AC Milan for 35 million euros later today. So I thought, no, that's probably a bit much for him.
Is that the beginning and ending of your European scouting career?
I won't be applying for the recruitment analyst job that they put out the other day, unless they want me to have 35 million quid's worth of transfers on one player.
The Blue Monday podcast has you handcuffed to a contract here, and no release clause for Joe Fairs. That we couldn't think of a number high enough, so I will not be accepting their bid, Joe. Get your thoughts in on central midfield as Rich is putting them up, and we'll have a look at some of them. The other side of this word from our sponsors.
Blue Monday is brought to you in partnership with Atwell Solicitors, your ideal legal partner for property and business law. Whether you're buying a home, starting a business, or just need legal guidance, our dedicated team has got you covered. Trust our award-winning customer service team to handle your legal matters with care and expertise. Find out more at atwells.com or visit us at our offices in Ipswich, Colchester, London, and our new location in Woodbridge.
Thank you to the people at Atwells. We're going to look at the three off the front and, a pretty empty striker berth. Let's just talk about this news coming through with Colchester and the women's team, Joe. And I'll get your response to a long message here from our resident women's expert, Richard, which I'll just read out word for word and you can give your response here. Let me explain why the club had little choice. Portman Road hosting all the games isn't economically viable when gates are circa 10,000. That's the start point. I said I was going to read it word for word. I will abridge it. If anyone wants to see this, is over on Richard's Facebook as well. He might have even posted it on Rich. Post it on our Facebook as well. Secondly, whilst the official list of requirements for WSL2 Stadium are not made public, they are akin to men's championship. Requirement for pitches, broadcast requirements. Additionally, all YSL matches are live. So you need broadcast stuff there. There will also be minimum requirements on capacity. None of these requirements are particularly onerous for Felixstowe isolation, but added together might become a significant challenge. The club solution at Colchester is imperfect, but is only temporary. I'd be surprised if there are no games at Portman Road. Hopefully we'll see some cut ties. So, yeah, get your thoughts in the comments on that link up with Cole Yu on the women's side. Joe, what's your take?
Yeah, firstly, I just think it's a real shame because what's been going on at Felixstowe has been great. And just from a purely selfish point of view, I live over this side of town, like Kesgrave area. So getting to Felixstowe is an easy day out. I sometimes take the kids down there. We can park in the town centre, walk around, go up to the ground there, where going to Colchester is always a bit soulless.
It's the worst parking there, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, it's not the most enjoyable place to go and watch football, but I guess it's got it. You're playing in an actual stadium. You've got it's all in single tier, so the young fans can still go down the front. The parking is crap. Hopefully, it's free for these games. It's sometimes free when I go to watch the under-21s there, as opposed to that. Hopefully, ticket prices remain sensible. But I don't know. It just feels wrong being at.
Didn't Stuart and Andy get stuck in the park and ride on one of them or something?
Oh, quite possibly, yeah. It's a funny place, but it's just not it's just not an enjoyable place to go and watch football. Just the whole surrounding of it. It is your archetypal modern stadium before they realised you had to put a bit of character in these places. It is just soulless. But hopefully the girls go there and have a good couple of seasons before coming back to Ipswich. And whilst I'm saying it's bad for me on this side of town, I'm sure there's probably a lot of Ipswich fans in North Essex and sort of Pinewood and Hadley and that side of town who makes it a lot easier for them getting to Felixstowe is. And hopefully maybe even for sort of player recruitment, it helps for them to get there. So I'm sure there are positives, but like I say, purely from my point of view, it just feels a real shame to be moving out of the county. But
yeah, hands tied by the look of it. And wherever they play, we wish the women continued success into next season. Right. Let's move on, Joe, to the front line where we are a little bit more stacked. Now, are you ready to trigger people in the comments here, Joe? Because you've put right wingers, left tens, and right tens. So we're using some very buzzy modern terms. Use whatever language you see fit to describe where blokes kicking a sphere of leather air around a field into a rectangle stand. But let's start with right wingers, Joe, where we appear to be fairly well stocked, depending on the fitness of one Wes Burns.
Yeah, it's a strange one because we know how Kieran McKenna likes to play, and it has always been that sort of real right winger with width, giving you that sort of balance that side and sort of up and down the pitch. And Wes Burns had done it fantastically for us for 2 seasons, and then Ogbene came in and seemed to be of the same sort of build, but maybe just a bit more explosive, a bit more high level experience. They both obviously have suffered major injuries. Wes Burns, I think he did his cruciate January, probably about January the 20th. So you've got to be looking at least 9 months for that. So I guess you just don't think about him until Christmas, basically. Just one like that. Anything we get out of him before January is probably a bonus, I think. So on that side, you have to leave it there. Ogbene is due to be back in pre-season training. I think he's due to be back right at the start.
What was his injury, Joe?
His Achilles. He tore his Achilles, which is a real tough one, and a real tough one for an explosive player, because if you lose that explosiveness, it could really slow you down. He's 28, so he's not the youngest player, and we'll see. But hopefully, I'm sure anything you see from him, he comes across as such a good guy.
My Luton mates love him. Yeah,
I'm sure like his rehab, everything would have been done 110%. Us footballers and football fans don't like to work in actual real numbers, but everything would have been done right, correctly, to the maximum of the possible ability. So he will not be leaving anything.
Birmingham fans chiming in here to say they would have done 111.
Yeah, I'm sure they would have done. But that 11% would have been paid for by their owner and pretended to be a
like we can talk, yeah.
But yeah, and so I've put Philogene in this category because he did play there.
Quickly, Joe, sorry, did you toy with the idea of putting Johnson in there as well?
I did, but we'd sort of use him in the right back category. I just don't think we're going to need someone of that profile in the Championship. We're just not going to need someone that defensive. So he's there. But yeah, he could easily be in this one as well. But Philogene is in there. I looked on Transfermarkt earlier. He's played sort of 76 times in his career as a left winger and 44 times as a right winger. And that was sort of like a dozen games at Hull, where he's probably a dozen on the right wing, 2 dozen on the left wing. And then at Cardiff and at Stoke beforehand, he was played as a right winger. So it is something he's done a lot of, but I think he prefers to play on the left. But it might be that this is just what needs must at the start of the season, because obviously Omari Hutchison has also played on the right-hand side a lot for us. Probably sort of, I think he's played, I looked at him again, he was sort of like 30 on the right, 30 in the middle, 15 on the left, 10, 15 on the left. So he's somebody that can play out there. And it's just, I guess it's probably going to be more horses for courses this year than it's previously been, where we've wanted to have that strong balance to make sure we can go in that sort of 3-2-5 and that right winger when it's Wes Burns or Bennett, it's because they're needed for that defensive responsibility. When you're playing a game where you're not really expecting much coming the other way, we used to play Omari Hutchison in those sort of games.
Yeah, against the low block, you want to come inside into the crowd, don't you?
Yeah, when we played like Leicester, for example, both times we played Omari Hutchison on the right-hand side because they were games of a side probably of an equal footing to us or that we were better than. There's going to be a lot of games like that this year where away at Chelsea, away at Fulham, you play Ben Johnson on the right-hand side because you need somebody with that defensive responsibility. You might not need that so much. So Philogene, Hutchinson could be there, but there's a lot of versatility in this group here, and it's working out who can play there.
So do you think they can ride it out until Christmas with, assuming that Burns doesn't make a Lazarus-like recovery and is back by international break number 2?
Yeah, I'd say so. And like I say, you've got Ogbene, Philogene, Ben Johnson, who we just mentioned there. They can all play in that role. Omari, Hutchinson can play there, assuming he stays. If not, maybe it's somewhere where you look for a loan signing, somebody to come in or you look to sign a striker who can maybe play out there as well. Like we used to have Caden Jackson, who could play as a striker and on the right-hand side as well. Maybe it's sort of these young strikers that you get linked with. They can generally, a lot of them can play out wide as well. So similar to what Liam Delap did at Hull when he was there, he played through the middle a lot, but also played on the right-hand side. But we will see on that. But I don't think it's a pressing need in that regard.
I think it's Trevor just put up on the screen there. Philogene should rip it up. There is a bit of a sense that, okay, lad, here you go. Come on then. Let's see some numbers.
Yeah, I've got some. If you're looking at the last 23-24 season, I was just looking at our goal contributions that we've got in the squad still. Chaplin was 13 goals, 8 assists in 37 games.
This is in a championship, yeah?
Yeah, this is like 37-90s. Broadhead, 13 goals, 3 assists in 25. Omari, 10 goals, 4 assists in 24. Burns, 6 goals, 4 assists in 26. Ogbene, the year before for Rotherham, 8 goals, 4 assists in 36 games.
For Rotherham?
For Rotherham, who finished 19th that season. Philogene, 12 goals, 6 assists in 31 games. Jack Clark, 15 goals, 4 assists in 39. Sam Smodics, 27 goals, 4 assists in 43. So those players...
It's all a goal contribution in like 50 to 66% of games, isn't it?
Yeah, other than sort of Burns and Ogbene, who are sort of like 0.3 to 0.4, that sort of range, which is still good. They're all above 0.5 and sort of up to 0.7 in Smodics' case. So these guys, all 8 guys we've got in these roles behind sort of your right wing, your left 10s and your right 10s, every single one of them has put a brilliant championship season together.
Shall we move on then? Get your views in the comments, guys. Richard's putting them up.
Yeah.
Left 10s then, Joe. Just quickly, for the pedants like me, why have you not put left wingers? Is this just the Leif Davis paradigm?
Yeah, because generally when we end up attacking, we have a 5 across the front, which is Leif Davis on the left. Then you have Nathan Broadhead, Sam Smodics inside them. Then you have what would be George Hurst. Then you've got Connor Chaplin. And then you've got Wes Burns, say, on that side. And it's almost like a W across there. So you've got the 2 wide men and that on the front, and then the 2 10s that sit in the middle and come in. And they're generally the guys that score more goals for us than anyone else. So if you look at our top goal scorers in the championship season, it was Connor Chaplin and Nathan Broadhead. If you look at our good run towards the end of the season, it was, Connor in League One, Connor Chaplin got 27 goals there. Nathan Broadhead got 10 goals in the second half of the season. Marcus Harness had got 5 or 6 goals from that role there. So these, whilst people say, "Oh, you're playing wide," you've got to do your running, but these are the goal scorers effectively.
But not compared to the guy playing on the right, yeah?
Yeah. Not Wes Burns or Bene on the right. These ones in the middle, these 2 10s are the ones where they're there for the cutbacks. They're there for the striker to hold the ball up and give them to. And this is where all the goals come from. So I guess, let's say Sam Smodics is a left 10 and people are saying, "Oh, he's wasted out wide." But I thought he was really good for us in this role. If you think he scored at Tottenham, scored at Fulham, scored at Man City, scored somewhere else.
Finisher, Joe.
Scored at Brentford. So he scored 4 goals from there. And it's just, out of possession, you probably do need to be on the left. But as soon as it's breaking, Leif Davis is coming past you. Forget about being on that left and you get yourself in the middle and score goals. But the problem is we've got Smodics, Jack Clark, Nathan Broadhead, Philogene. All 4 of them probably want to play in that same position there.
And what do you see happening?
I think Sam Smodics will be the one that plays the most there. I think Nathan Broadhead, I wouldn't.
You don't think Smodics would be used as a 10 or
it is a 10, though, isn't it?
I mean the traditional central. He really liked it at Blackburn, and if you listen to the interview he does with Big Sam, where he basically pitches himself for the move to us. He says he really liked it, and obviously John Eustace used him there a fair bit, didn't he?
Yeah, I guess the difference is between saying, like, when we have the ball, we have the 5 across. I think when you're out without the ball, you end up almost in like a 4-4-1-1 shape. So it's just the right 10 becomes the one behind the one, and the left 10 becomes the left midfielder. So yeah, you have more running to do. You're more out the side of the pitch, but I do think it's a really good role for him. I think we also like under Kieran McKenna to have in these 2-10 roles, we want them to be on their wrong foot effectively, so that when they're coming in for the cutbacks, they're coming in for the cutbacks onto their right foot. You'll notice it's Leif Davis always cutting the ball back to Connor Chaplin because he cutting it back, so Chaplin comes in on his left foot, and on the other side it's Wes Burns cutting the ball back to Nathan Broadhead because they're coming in from those angles. So that is
quickly say, Joe, as well. I've seen no less than Marcelo Bielsa play Jack Clark on the right wing as well, which we haven't mentioned at all.
There's not been much of that, because I looked at Jack Clark, obviously at Leeds. He's played in his career, just the games he's played wide is sort of...
Just come into shot, Joe, so we can see your
the best part of 200 games, and he's played 150 of them on the left wing and 50 of them on the right wing.
Spygate game, he definitely played right. And
it's
brilliant.
It's at Leeds and Stoke is the games. When he was at Leeds and when he was at Stoke, he played on the right wing, and since he's left there to go to Sunderland, he hasn't played out there at all. I think he played a couple of times there for Tottenham as well. So he's been a left winger since he left Stoke on a loan spell. So it's a fair bit of time he hasn't played there. But
I was just thinking as you were talking, Joe, sometimes the least adaptable is the one that actually gets the position. And I was thinking, well, that's probably Clark, isn't it? Because Broadhead could play central, Smodic could play 9 or 10. And then I thought, I've definitely seen Clark play down the right before. But keep your views coming in the comments. Just to round that out with the wide players, nicely stocked, isn't it?
It's incredible what we got there. Like I say, those 8 players there. And I think the hardest thing we're going to have is keeping those players happy, keeping those fit, because effectively, if you said we're going to play Jack Clark, who we signed for 15 million, Sam Smodic, who we signed for 9 million, and Jaden Philogene, who we signed for 20 million, that means that Omari Hutchinson and Keo Ogbene are on the bench. If you play, so you've got well, like I say, obviously Broadhead, Burns, Chaplin, they're the 3 that were with us for the journey, lower transfer fees. I think Broadhead like 1.5 million, but been a brilliant player. Chaplin was 750k, and Burns was like 150. So you've got those 3 at those prices. But then you've got Ogbene 8 million, Philogene 20 million, Hutchinson 22 million, Clark 15 million, Smodic 9 million. So whichever way you slice it, you're going to be having 20 million quid's worth of talent on the bench. So
it's what, mate, we're a parachute team now. This is what we always, well, we want to be in the Premier League, but this is what we always wanted jealously. And parachute teams have 8-digit players on the bench. They do.
And that's the thing. Like I say, you're going to be starting games and saying, oh, it's 60 minutes, we're going to bring our subs on, and our subs are going to be Keo Ogbene, Jaden Philogene, and Sam Smodic. It's going to be coming off the bench, which is incredible.
Joe, we've been against that. We've had clubs do that to us over the years, and you throw your hands up and go, okay, there's a goal coming.
But that's going to be incredibly difficult for Kieran McKenna to manage, because you've got effectively a Championship All-Stars team. Like the last time, Jack Clark's was Championship Team of the Year. I think the year before we went up, Sam Smodic scored 27 goals, won the Golden Boot Team of the Year. Jaden Philogene at Hull was just a cheat effectively in that league. And then Omari Hutchinson will be the best player in the league next year if he is here. It's going to be.
They're not going to stay fit though, Joe, are they?
No, not all the time. But there could be periods for the fact that they are going to be getting sort of good rest here. It's going to be a real tough challenge for Kieran McKenna to manage that.
But he's the professor. He can do it. If anyone can, he can. We should talk about Keith Andrews today, really. I'm sure that'll come up in the questions. Good old Keith. Right 10s, which I assume means the one that's kind of in the middle, and forwards. So, yeah, we've spoken a lot about Omari Hutchinson. If he is sold, does he need to be directly replaced, or does that money still need to be funneled into the central midfield, Joe?
I think it will go both places. But if he is sold, you will need to replace him because he is our. I think he's going to be our best player if he is here next season because he's just, like I say, you see him playing for England under 21s at the moment, and you saw the way he finished the championship season last year, where he started the season quite slowly, coming into the team, working his way through there. But the last sort of dozen games of the season, he was the best player in the league across a dozen.
And Joe, I went on a Birmingham podcast and I stole that opinion from you, and I said the blueprint you need to do, ride your momentum out, and even if you do sign Omari Hutchinson at the start of the season, not that Birmingham are going to, but the equivalent this season, drip him in, like you said, and then run in. First name on the team sheet, mate. But anyway, sorry, continue your thought.
Yeah, so there's that. And I guess it's just what happens in that right 10 role because Connor Chaplin is such a fantastic player and leader and guy that drives the standards of the team.
And only 28.
Yeah, knits it together as well. I think he's one that we really notice when he's not playing. I think his role will probably be more as a sub, but when he comes on for those last 25 minutes, half an hour, he will help you do more than just see games out from the front and improve you as a team at times. So, yeah, he's still going to be a very important player this year. And
Can you afford, Joe? You said the same thing about Morsey, though. Can you... I'm going to say... No, I was going to use the word cheerleaders there. That's completely unfair. But do you know what I mean? Can you afford to carry two legacy players to, quote, drive standards? Probably can't, can you?
Well, they'll need to prove that they can be in the team. Like,
they're
not going to be in the team just because they're good characters. They're going to be in the team because their performance levels are still staying at a level that's high enough, or they're going to be the players that their role, if it is a leadership role, more than an ability role, is going to be one that comes off the bench to drive the standards last 20 minutes of games when you need it, when you got some tired legs, you've got some people, you need them to make good decisions, coming attack.
And look at that contract, Joe, as well. Chaplin, 1 year to go.
Last year to go, yeah, on it. So, but I think he'll want to stay. He's very much at home in the area, and I think he'll want to get us back to the Premier League and have a better go at it because he didn't have a brilliant go at the Premier League because of injuries. And I thought when he did play, I thought he played well, and I thought he helped us a lot there. But it's just, I don't know, just that injury. It sort of seemed so innocuous, and he missed so much football with it.
Looking at the forwards, this needs a drip. This reminds me of where's Big Kiefer? Get him in. This reminds me of January. What year would it have been? I can't even remember. 2024. All over again, and obviously, replace Liam Delap. Yeah, nice one. Easier said than done. But I mean, if you could sign one high ticket player. Just one, and it had to be either central midfield or striker. I know you're only as good as your strikers, says. Who said that? Steve Bruce, maybe. That's a good quote to drop. Where are you going with this? Can we afford to drop big money on a forward and a central midfielder?
Well, I think you have to, don't you?
Yeah.
There's no way around it. We have to. It just has to be done because, like George Hurst, fantastic player. I think he'll shortly sign a new contract, but. He looked every inch Premier League striker to me when he played at times last year. And when I'm talking about all these people's goal record previously, his last season in Championship, 7 goals, 6 assists. Yeah, sounds okay. Then you find out he only played 20 games last year, so it's well over 1 or 2. Even Ali Al-Hamdi scored 4 goals, and he only played the equivalent of 3 games,
and missed some penalties.
And missed a penalty, yeah. So I don't think he's. I think I did. Maybe not ideally, but I think he's one that you probably try and move on, Ali Al-Hamdi, because there was a lot of talk in the January transfer window when he was going to Stoke, potentially going to West Brom, that there was part of a permanent transfer attached to those deals if they wanted it. So it does make you think that the club have maybe made their judgment on him, that he's not going to be the one to push forward at Ipswich Town.
The club moved too quick for him, didn't it? If we'd have stayed in the Championship, it would have worked better and he could have developed himself.
Yeah, I think the strange thing is that his physicality seemed to be what was his skill. And we saw all these studies releasing him from like Skill Corner and things like that, saying that
Skill Corner?
It's just like I don't know, they do a lot with scouted football. And they were talking about...
You're such a pervert, Joe, aren't you? You're on your Skill Corner.
Someone needs to be.
At night.
but they were talking about like levels of physicality, like number of sprints, top speed and stuff like that throughout the game. And he was seen, like there was like the League 2 strikers grouped in the middle of it here. And he was like out here, massive outlier, putting up
good outlier. Yeah,
putting up like Premier League in League Twos. So I think everyone expected physically him to be fine, and maybe technically where he struggled. But it seemed like physically he struggled as well this year.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I don't know. He looked like he was injured the whole. Every time he came on, like Liam Delap is flying around like a madman at sort of 75 minutes, looking goose. Then Ali Al-Hamdi was coming on and looking like he'd played 175 minutes rather than that. And it just, I don't know.
Love you, Ali.
Yeah, whether there was an underlying issue that we weren't aware of, but I don't know. It just seemed very strange. But hopefully, like I say, hopefully we can get a decent fee for him. He does go, but I wouldn't really want it to be our number 3 striker this season. I think that would leave us short with sort of Hurst's previous injury record.
Who do you like then, Joe? Because I've discussed this with Sam Parkin a lot, that the type of player Sam was doesn't exist a hell of a lot anymore. You know, obviously he would have played in a front 2 in his career, but just in the Championship, so few number 9s. And if you want to take one, you know, there isn't very many to go around. And where are you shopping, Joe?
And they're big fees as well, aren't they? It sounds like the Millwall. Is it Ivanovic at Millwall? Coming done really well there, but
I tell you what, Brian Hardy, $750,000 to Wrexham looks a good deal, doesn't it?
Yeah, that is a really good deal there. I think he's one that could have fit in the rotation, but he probably gets to go and be a sort of more of a main man out there now. So it's a
proper nice salary, I bet, as well, Joe.
Yeah, I've really got a better one here, but yeah, like that Ivanovic at Millwall looks a good player. Looks really the right profile, but maybe he goes higher than us. Richard Kone at Wickham, another one who played really, really well until sort of Mike Dodds came in and decided to change how Wickham played, and it seemed to take away his strengths. But I think, again, a lot of what he does could be really good. And then you're sort of scraping around trying to find sort of foreign players. And I say even like Ioannidis, who we were in for from Greece last year, went up to like 27 million. He didn't go anywhere, but you see, I think Leicester were linked with him again this summer, but at like 18 million euros, maybe one week go after there. I think Reece has put up Jay Stansfield as one, but you're not going to get him. You're not going to get him out of Birmingham, but he is one that Kieran McKenna. He's one that McKenna really liked. We tried for a couple of times and didn't get him, but now that ship has sailed.
No, that's gone.
There's no way he comes out of there. So yeah, there's lots of options, but you are talking of these sort of unicorn strikers, aren't you? That are big, they're strong, they're quick, they can hold the ball up, they can score goals, they can
stop talking about Liam Delap.
But I think, like I say, George Hurst can do that. So we'll see who comes in to support him. We've been linked. There's a few links early in the window. That Divine Mubama from West Ham.
I was going to say, are there any
West Ham's Man City? But he's been linked
young guys
Stoke
on your radar that you could bring in on loan? Can you get I know everybody wants Tammy Abraham, don't they, when he went to Bristol City and Villa, but
well, one of them was that Mark Guiu at Chelsea, who was there was a lot of talk about him at the time. That he's now at the Club World Cup, and obviously Nicholas Jackson's got sent off, so he's going to be getting more minutes out there. But you'd imagine Chelsea will sign somebody else, so maybe he becomes available. But later in the window, I think he'd be a really good sign if we get him. And there was talk of sort of 10 million quid, and it's like sort of big money, and especially because I think you need someone with a little bit more senior experience to go on top of that as well. But yeah, no, there's work to do there, isn't it? And it does feel like centre midfield and centre forward are the two positions where you could sign 4 players there for 50 million quid between those 4, and that's probably what we need to get those up to the level of the rest of the squad. And then there's Will Asula, that's another great shout there. Someone who
I can't believe how stratospherically he's gone up since we were linked with him in League One and he went to Derby on loan. That seems a ridiculous.
Yeah, he looked really good.
Yeah, interesting. Right, get your questions in. We've already got a fair few starred for Joe for the last 10 minutes. So conclusions then, Joe. I'll give you mine, and they're different from the other night, Sunday, because Dara O'Shea signed a contract. We did not know that when we were chatting on Sunday. So my conclusions are goalkeeper's going to be fascinating, and would McKenna have the balls to do the rehabilitation job of all rehabilitation jobs? Back 4, I'm reasonably confident with. Midfield, central midfield, we want to see a big signing come in. We're nicely stacked in the 3 off the front with Omari Hutchinson, probably the most likely to leave on a high ticket. And then can you do a big deal for a striker, but where the hell do you find him? Anything on top of that, Joe?
No, I think I'm the same. I think, like I say, it's goalie is. There's a lot to do in the goalkeeper situation, but in another way, it is actually sorted. We probably have the number one and the number two in the club at the moment, so it's just working out around it. I think it'll be Alex Palmer and Christian Walton battling it out for the number one shirt, and then the big call is Axel Tuanzebe at right back. Does he sign? If not, do you try and sign somebody of that similar profile, that sort of right-sided centre-back, right back? My personal view would be yes. If not, can Johnson and Clark cope between them? I've not been mega impressed by Johnson in that role, so I would be really, really hoping we can sign Axel Tuanzebe, and if we can get him, then that defence is sorted. Yeah, central midfield, I think you need two. You need two big ticket signings in there, and that is going to be what sort of not makes or breaks our season, because there's a chance like you could go Sam Moores and Cameron Humphreys, and with what's around and probably be okay for the majority of games in there. But yeah, you want two big signings in there. Like I say, the free behind the striker, the 8 there is an insane level of talent. If you lose Omari Hudson, yeah, maybe you bring in a loan to replace him, but you don't really need too much more than that. And then, yeah, I think it's like for me, 2 central midfielders, 2 strikers, maybe a right back, and then just a little bit of floating around with loan players.
Yeah. Get your questions in. I'm going to go to plugs in a minute, but just quickly, Joe. So I'll probably contradict what I said the other day because I can't remember what I said the other day, but let me give you an 11 right now. Oh, thanks, Rich. Palmer, there you go. We can change TVC to O'Shea now. We know that. So, yeah, I'll go Palmer, Davis, Greaves, O'Shea, Johnson, and I'll agree with Joe. Go on then. Flynn Downs, plus another midfielder we don't know the name of. And then, yeah, Jack Clark, Jaden Philogene, Sam Smodics, and a number 9 we don't know the name of. How close are you to that, Joe?
I will go with Palmer in goal. I'll still say Tuanzebe, O'Shea, Greaves, Davis, Flynn Downs, and Hayden Hackney.
Flinjamin Downs and Hayden Jamin Hackney.
And then Philogene. I do think Omari is going to be the one that goes. So maybe, Philogene, Smodics, Jack Clark, and George Hurst up front with a rotation with another big ticket sign in there.
Get involved. Right, we'll do some questions in a minute. What am I plugging today? I have got no idea because I'm looking in the Blue Monday chat right now. This is great podcasting, everybody. You can join us on Thursday for the fixture day release, which hopefully will be with Craig and DD. And yeah, part 1, obviously slightly dated by the Dara O'Shea news. You can check that out as a nice little compendium to this here show tonight. Right, Joe, can we go proper pacey on the questions? See if we can do all of them. Yeah.
Yes.
Matt, I'm interested to know what happens with Jack Taylor. You can't answer, so am I.
I wouldn't. It wouldn't surprise me if he pushes for a move, and we end up with a little bit more to do there. I guess it's a chance for us to try and recoup a fee. Otherwise, I could see that contract just being run down, him not playing a huge amount this year, and then walking out the door next.
FPL Tractor FPL Tractor doesn't care what I think, but I'm the host, so I don't mind. I'm only joking. FPL Tractor. Does Joe think Humphreys is a 6 or a 10?
I think he's a 6.
Cunningham, Ben, with your championship knowledge, what midfielders would you suggest? I think we named them all, Joe, didn't we? Although you poured scorn on Sheaf. I think I like Sheaf better than you do. Hackney would be brilliant, but I do concur with you that maybe Leeds, Burnley, or Sunderland might have a nice bid for him. Paul, Joe, to buy the level of play we are being linked with in the UK, we're going to have to splash the cash. Do we have any scouting foothold abroad, or are we just starting to build that?
We are starting to build it. Hopefully there's enough of it there that we can bring in a couple of, like I say, if you could sign a £18 million central midfielder and maybe a £5 or £6 million from the continent who potentially has to go on there, so you start off with Sam Morsey and one other and they push there. Or you can sign a striker for £7-8 million to go with George Hurst that could hopefully turn into a £15, £20, £25 million striker. That would be great because you do get more for your money, but there's still got to be big ticket signings even from there.
That's a good question. Will Ipswich go back in for Ben Doak? I guess that's if Hutchinson gets sold, there's your right winger replacement or right 10 or whatever you called it.
Yeah, I just wonder. We are fairly well stacked there, aren't we, with Ogbene and Philogene? But then also on the flip side, we're also not well stacked because if Ogbene struggles to come back from injury and Philogene wants to play the other side, and if Hutchinson leaves, that opens it up. Yeah, it could be a really good signing.
Kingy, Joe, what's your hunch on Hutchinson? Staying or going?
Hunch is probably going because I just think he's.
Has that changed today?
No. I just think that he is just so good, and I just think somebody will pay that money for him at some point. But I think he only goes if we get that top offer in, and I think maybe that's one that goes into the season.
Jules, will we buy any specimen players after looking lightweight compared to Fulham, Brentford, or Wolves? That's a possibility, isn't it? Especially in central midfield. If you
in central midfield, yeah, no, I think that is a big possibility.
Trevor, do you think Broadhead will leave? Nah. Wrexham, maybe. I guess that's the Welsh link Trevor's going for. He'd be good for Wrexham, wouldn't he? But he'd be good for us, surely.
Yeah, I think he will leave, and I think that maybe it's just one you look to freshen up a little bit there. I think he's out of contract at the end of this season as well, so he's one that you could maybe look to move on, make a profit on him, bring in somebody of the profile he was when he signed, someone that you can sort of find their way into the team. And yeah, he is from North Wales, so I'd imagine a move to Wrexham appeals to him. Although I don't think appealing on welcome to Wrexham will appeal to him.
Oh, there you go. Just quickly, Joe, one from me. Who's going to be the last holdout from the boys of the double promotion? Then they're all gradually going, aren't they? Is it going to be Wolfenden?
Yeah, I guess Wolfenden or Davis are probably the two that will hang around the longest because Wolfenden's got another 2 years on his contract, so I don't see him going anywhere. And I think he's still such a good player that you can just drop him in as and when you need him. It's just whether he wants to go and play week in, week out somewhere or move away from Ipswich or be a guy that stays here for another 5 or 6 years playing sort of 15, 20 games a season.
Colin, does the panel think like myself that O'Shea will be our captain after? Yeah, they'll make him vice captain straight away, won't they? And then he'll be the on-pitch captain.
Yeah. I think he was the one wearing the armband when Sam Morsey wasn't playing, and I think that was even when Connor Chaplin.
You often get that club captain and pitch captain, don't you?
Actually, I think Connor Chaplin was captain at Brentford, and I think O'Shea played that day, or did he miss that one? I don't know. But yeah, O'Shea is the future Ipswich Town captain, without a doubt.
Right, we're doing good, Joe. We're nearly there. Michael, do we set up for a 20 goals a season number 9, or do we want our goals to come from players behind the main striker? Normally, Joe, when there's the option of having a 20-goal striker, I say yes. Without
you take him if you can, but I think you could say any single one of those. Well, maybe not Burns or Ogbene, but you've got between Philogene, Clark, Chaplin, Hutchinson, Hurst, a new striker.
They've all done it. Yeah,
they're all capable of scoring 20 goals a season.
Yeah.
If they all did, it would be great.
You might get your 100 goals for once, Joe. David, with the squad we have now, do you think we'll challenge for the top 6 next season, Joe?
No, I think we'll walk the league.
Oh, stuff it. Mark, will we be back in the big time come the end of the season, or big in the back time, to coin a partridges? And by the way, if you haven't checked out Noel Edmonds' Kiwi Adventure and you don't follow the Accidental Partridge account on YouTube, Edmonds on absolute fire in this new series. You need to watch it, Joe.
And check out Steve Coogan on the trailer of the new Roy Keane, Mick McCarthy movie.
There you go.
Well. That's good. No, I think we'll be back in the big time. I think that we're the most stable of the 3 relegated teams. And I think we are. I know Mark Ashton says that our consistency is our superpower, and I think that will be the case this season.
Trevor, have Brentford got a new manager yet? Nearly, and it's not Kieran McKenna.
No, it's going to be Keith Andrews, isn't it? Very strange.
Mate, I'll take that all day long. That's a good shout. I bloody love Tanganga. I think he's excellent. Tanganga if Tuan Zabi leaves. I believe the £1 million release clause is only if he goes to a Premier League team, though. Is that right?
That's what it's been quoted. That's 1.2 million to a Premier League team. But yeah, no, he
1.5.
He'd be a great signing for us. I think he and Tuan Zabi are quite similar in their games. I think he would be a real nice fit in that role.
Oh, mate, I was covering Millwall at the start of last season. They were bad. He got fit. Good. He just made a huge difference. Paul, what South American Brighton loanee should we expect this year? Where's Jeremy Sarmiento? So he was on loan at Burnley last year. Can he come back?
Get him back. That's what I'd say. That is my view. He's the one that needs to be back.
There you go. George, quickly, if Ipswich kept all their current players, how would it rank into? I think if Liam Delap had stayed, it would have been one of the best squads.
I think when you look back at those Newcastle squads that came down under like silly. Benitez, and that was at the time when 50 grand was a lot of money, and they had like 10 players and like 50 grand a week, and it was like Kevin Nolan, Joey Barton, Andy Carroll, and it was like they were
young Andy Carroll,
like Fabrizio Colacini, really, really good players.
Yeah. Last one, could you see Chaplin back at Pompey? He had a good season last year, Pompey, and I think Massinio's probably good to play for as well, isn't he?
Yeah, I'm sure if things don't work out for him here, that'd be one of the clubs you look at. But I think he'd have higher aims. He'd be wanting to look at a club aiming for promotion, which probably isn't Portsmouth's priority this year.
No. There we go. Brilliant stuff. Joe, it was supposed to be a squad audit, but the Dara deal had to take precedence tonight, and we're really pleased that one has gone through, and we'll be really pleased to find out our fixtures on Thursday. Joe, we're going to play Norwich in August.
We've got to play them sometime, I guess, but hopefully we can just get that monkey off our backs. Yeah,
I think it's going to be in August. I'm not ITK on that. I have no info, but I can just see it. There's normally an early one, isn't there? Guys, thank you so much for joining us, and join Craig and whoever is with Craig. It might be me or Joe at this rate. Hopefully it's DD, and we'll see you on Thursday for the fixture release. Joe.